Anyways, hello everyone. Basically in this video I'm going to be taking a look at the ships I own currently, which are going to be the wonderful Aurora you can see there, and then the Constellation Terrace Targuis, or however you pronounce it for the rest of the video. I'll just be calling the Constellation. Um, but then also some nice surprise ship I found. I don't know, I'm going to have to figure out why that's there, but I've got a nice Hornet as well. Um, you know, this being the deluxe hangar, is very deluxe-like. But the main reason of this video is basically for me to show what my experiences with Star Citizen have been so far. Some people, oh yeah, I've known Chris Roberts for, blah blah blah. I've played Wing Commander. I've played blah blah blah. No, I'm not one of those people. I'm not. I'm well below the average age for Star Citizen community members. I think the average is now something like 30 to 38, somewhere in that range. So, for me, I had no idea what I was getting into Star Citizen. The only thing I saw before were YouTube videos of people walking around in their hangars. This was well before gameplay of Arena Commander, before even the talks of how the persistent universe are going to work and blah blah blah. I had no idea. The only thing that was going through was in my mind was it's not a console port. Finally, someone has taken the PC and used it properly. We're not porting some console game. We're not porting some dreadfully icky thing and just adding a few features to make the PC players feel like the company cares for them. No, no, no. This is completely PC first. As you can see with the textures, it is by far superior to then console peasants. That being said, I've played a lot of, console ports like Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. They weren't bad, but the problem was it was having an immersive experience. Luckily enough, I was able to add some immersiveness, if you want to call it that, by using NVIDIA's 3D vision technology. That helped a lot, and obviously adding some higher quality textures through brute force method like text mod to improve texture quality. Some horribly abysmal textures, which I don't know why they were like that, but shall never find out. Talking about risks, the key part to it was that I didn't know what Chris Roberts was like. It took me actually 2 days to figure out who the heck Chris Roberts was, who the heck, are all these developers, how are they related, what are they working on, how are they doing their jobs. There's so many questions I had to answer before I said, okay, you know what, I'm going to chip money in. Then came the actual question of how much money should I chip in? That was the ultimate question I had at the time. I said, I'm not 100% sure about this game. I had played Eve before. I liked Eve, but, subscription was abysmal. And of course, that was just a bug, as you saw. But the real killer thing was the subscription. I hate subscriptions. If I chip money into a game, I should be able to play that thing. I should have rights to play that game for foreseeable future. Obviously, if you're gonna completely release a new game with 100% new content, you're sure you have to buy the game again. But just to sustain a lease of a game, it doesn't feel like I own the game. It feels like I'm leasing the game. I've got the content on my hard drive. I've got the content on my SSD or wherever you're putting it. It could be a network drive, NAS, SAS. It could even be on a SCSI drive. But for all intents and purposes, you should own the game. And that is something I found out in my 2 days of research was there's no subscriptions. You own the game. No questions, if, ands, buts. You pledged today, you were able to get access to the game in the future, you're able to get access to a ship, and you're able to go fly around. that was important for me. You know, people say, "Oh, Star Citizen this, Star Citizen that," and yet I go and look at Elite Dangerous, where the chip-in price for a while was $150, some abysmal price. Doesn't even talk about owning a ship. Doesn't even talk about some base things. And still, I think the lowest now is $75 for, you know, for a pledge saying, "Oh yes, I understand what you're saying. I understand your concept. I understand your wisdom. I understand your vision, artistic vision, and technical vision to create a game." But you know, there's the level of detail for me was an important thing. CryEngine, I've played Crysis. I know what the game engine's capable of. I know what I was looking for, and Star Citizen was that game. You know, the detail, like, I'm just gonna stop here. The detail that goes into every single ship is absolutely stunning. You know, obviously it's still, everything's not complete yet. They've still tweaked games. They still tweaked a lot of the game modes, but they also tweaked the ships themselves. A lot of the ships are gonna, under iteration after iteration after iteration. Like the Idris used to be some small, I think it's like 4-person ship. Now it's some huge thing that some lucky backers basically will get to fly around, because obviously you can't just strip that away from people if they've pledged something. But okay, let's see, this thing is a little difficult to get into, but like I said, some people are just not flexible enough. If you're not flexible enough, if you don't understand that, yes, things are going to change for, you know, from month to month, based off how the game goes, do not pledge. I'm basically going to give you that warning now. If you pledge and say, "Oh, well, I got cheated because this ship was supposed to be super awesome, it was supposed to be ridiculously fast or something," no, please. Save your money. Buy the game when it comes out, and do not complain. But you know, I think one of the other things was, if I remember correctly, the Hornet. People hated the amount of viewing space you were initially given. It was some cramped thing. You couldn't see, basically, if you see up to the pillar there, you couldn't. Last time I remember, you were only able to see about half the pillar. That's what people are saying. "Oh yeah, the vision wasn't great," and blah blah blah. And sure enough, developers said, "Okay, let's fix that." You know, they do listen, they do respond, and they do care, because at the end of the day, it's your money, not theirs. Unlike some developers today, like I said before, they could care less. You know, they don't care how the money gets in their bank account. It's there. You're essentially just a number at the end of the day. And the larger that number, the better it is for them. You know, this, I believe, the Hornet, the ship we're currently looking at, was given to me based off buying the Constellation, the big honking ship I just bought actually today. Because obviously I can't fly the Constellation around in Arena Commander just yet. Obviously I have to wait for a few more revisions in the coming weeks, months, days, years, centuries, depending when the game obviously gets scheduled, when things get said, "Okay, let's, you know, push this out now, it's stable enough." Obviously you can see that there's still some work to be done. Like, you can see the nice glitchy textures, the anti-aliasing not quite doing stuff properly, but you know, speaking of which, there's still actually a problem. I'm running two GTX 760s, both very good cards, you know, being custom cooled with the Gigabyte's quote-unquote WindForce technology, being 3 fans, but SLI does not work. I can only use one of my cards right now, and obviously trying to play something above 1080, you know, it's okay. I'm barely managing to stretch this thing to 30 frames per second on the highest settings. But as we go around my large constellation here, the Terrace Turquoise, however you want to pronounce it for now, it's big. You know, That's the nice beauty of the game. Scale does matter. Literally, this ship is immense. This is actually how ships should be. Some games, they cheat on the scaling. Why? Because it means they have to render less stuff, less work. But at the end of the day, it's about immersion. Immersion says, okay, do I believe this thing actually to be a real ship? And yes, it is, because just look at the size of this thing, And it actually does take me a while to walk from one side of the ship to the other. Not sort of, okay, let's go, let's spend 3 seconds, go to one end of the ship to the other. It's properly sized to scale, and no argument there. And comparing the size, that's the Aurora. This is the Constellation. Much bigger. And obviously you can see the Hornet over there. It's, quite a difference. There's also going to be different handling of the ships. That's the other thing. A lot of games will cheat. And of course, being a wannabe game developer, I understand why you'd want to cheat, but, cheating ultimately cuts immersion. As you can see, I can just take the cargo lift or the person lift, whatever you want to call it, up. And I'm now actually officially in the thing, my wonderful Constellation. Now, maybe saying, oh, well, there's not a whole lot to do. Obviously, there's very few interactable pieces available currently. This is glitched, obviously. There we go. Can I get it again? And like I said before, it's beta. Do expect problems. Do expect features not to be 100%. Do expect things to not be fundamentally correct yet. And yeah. Obviously, being a quote-unquote alpha or whatever, a lot of developers have different terms. The worst one I've seen, obviously, is early beta. I'm not sure exactly what early beta means, but I would assume it's alpha. Now, that's not the concept here. This is supposedly alpha, and then beta will be coming out shortly once, you can actually not have stuff glitchy around, and you don't have the cursed shiny bed problem, like I said before. To some people, I don't know if it's intentional to have a shiny bed because maybe it's plastic covering, but it does look kind of out of place with that. As you can see, actually, there's a interface here. They've actually, after some update, they locked you being able to move your head around. But yeah, obviously you would be able to have that panel interactable, I would assume, later on when stuff actually works properly. And across from the beds, we have the wonderful facilities of a mirror that's not reflective yet, a shower in case you somehow have an accident on your suit and you want to clean your suit off when using the fecal depository unit. You can even sit down. Yes, that is right, kids. You can even sit down and gaze upon your sink, your mirror, and your shower, and also look into your cabin with it open. Enough of thinking about stuff like that. Anyway, it's the interactable stuff is key right now. Saying, okay, this is how you're going to access things. Now, one of the initial problems with the Constellation a while back was you had your deck here for commanding them, flying around. Okay, what if you wanted to go sleep? The problem was you would have to go through the cargo area. Now, same with the facilities, the fecal depository unit, you would have to walk through the cargo hold. Now, what happens if the cargo hold has pressurization issues? Well, you can't exactly just say, oh, guys, yeah, I'm going to go take a leak, and now everything's going to be flying around. And no. They thought about that again, and they said, oh, no, not quite right. So they addressed that issue with all the Constellation variants now. And now you actually get a cargo space. Now, obviously, it depends which version you have. Myself having the Terrace Targus, whatever version you want to call it, comes with a nice, huge cargo space. If you compare it with the Freelancer Max or whatever version, they basically for the same single ship pledge price, you're getting, I think it's almost like 4 times the amount of space as the other ship. Obviously, it depends on your personal preference, looks, and things like that. But the most critical part was, what do you think you're going to be doing with your ship? Now, that was another question I ran into when I firstly wanted to pledge money towards Star Citizen and its artistic vision, its technical vision, its whole story. I didn't know what I wanted to do, honestly. Reason being is, I don't know what what the gameplay features are like. And so, I said, let's play it safe. I'll go for the Aurora. It was some lone solo kind of fighter-ish, but general sort of, everything ship. It did exploration, it did all this other stuff. Obviously, it's not going to excel at any of those particular roles, but it's a well-rounded ship. And that's what I'd like to see. Something I can just use. If it blows up, it's not expensive. I can replace it. Unlike the Constellation, where I had to shell out how much money for it. And even with the 6 months of insurance, I don't want it to disappear. I'd rather not have someone blow it up or steal it or do anything horrible to my wonderful, wonderful Aurora. And my wonderful, wonderful, obviously, Constellation. But, another thing is, like I said before, it was immersion, but being the game it is now, everything's not complete. So, some weird interactable object here. This is going to open the cargo bay. Though the real point I'm getting from this is that it's just intended to show you how fundamental parts of the ship are going to work. This cargo loading ramp, for instance. Okay, now I can understand that I can drive a car or something, a vehicle, not necessarily a car, because I don't think they're going to have cars, they're going to have rovers or blah, blah, blah. There's a version that comes with a rover and fighter and takes up this valuable space, but it gives you an idea saying, oh, okay, you know what, this is for cargo. Am I going to be wanting to shuttle cargo around? Am I going to want to bring stuff back? Because as for now, I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing. Personally, I'm going to be wanting to explore and say, okay, what's the best thing to do? And, Aurora's perfect for that, but if I wanted to bring some friends along, 3 other people, plus, how many guests for the ship, they won't fit an Aurora. Of course, as you've seen, the Aurora is tiny, abysmally tiny compared to even like the Hornet or something. But at least with the Aurora, you can actually pack more people in it. Or, well, I shouldn't say that because that's not confirmed yet. Space-wise, you can obviously do it, but Hornet, you can only really fit 1 person plus a turret gunner, I think, some variants. But yeah, the Constellation, you can actually take a crew of 4 people, supposedly. And we're going to glitch this thing. Like I said before, not complete, just for fundamental idea demonstration. Turret access, this actually will supposedly flip up and go up here to the turret. You can jump up and see it. You can see the controls and stuff like that. So we've got a turret on the top, we've got a co-pilot, another co-pilot, and the actual captain pilot chair of 2. And yes, you can get into it. Yes, you can swivel around and tap on some interface. That does nothing right now with the co-pilot seats. We're going to take a look at one of these co-pilot seats. Like I said, fundamental principles are just shown. And another thing was, people didn't like how the Constellation went as well. They didn't like the viewing ports are not good enough. There wasn't enough view from the viewing port, if that makes sense. And so they addressed that. As you can see, it's pretty hard to show with a hangar, but you can get quite a bit of view, which is good. And of course, with 3 of you up here at one given time, you all have to be able to see A, each other, but also B, what's around you. Now, why didn't I go for the exploration version or the Phoenix, which is I call the pimp ship, because it's classy enough. Let's just say. Let's see if I can get a shower here. The reason being is because cost. I still don't know what the game's going to be like at the end of the day. Is it going to be exactly as I dreamed, the ultimate damn space sim there is to this date, or am I going to see bugs like this, like shiny control panel sticks throughout the whole thing? I still don't know. Some people are a bit more trusting, and some people hundreds, basically, of ships, essentially. Spent hundreds, thousands, ludicrous amount of money, I think, on ships for a game we don't even really know. They're still planning out the persistent universe, the thing that's actually going to stick all of this together. The economy still is being worked. We have very little details on it. I submitted a question one time for what's mining going to be like? What's a fundamental thing like running some factory on this planet going to be like? Are we going to have whole cargo units? Or are we going to have things where we can have half a cargo unit? What's a cargo unit? What defines a cargo unit? We still a lot of those questions unanswered, and that is why I decided to play it safe. Now, say, oh well, you don't really have to buy a ship. You could have stuck with your Aurora and waited it out and just got a ship in the game. That's true, but key fundamental part is you have to show appreciation for this work, and a lot of the companies today miss the fact that user-generated content, or UGC, is a very big part of games. Chris Roberts talked about it a little bit, saying, oh, we can let people mod the game, but it's going to be limited, and blah, 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 blah. And the only real way to show appreciation for the game is to back it. To throw your money at it, say, yeah, this is good. Keep rolling it out. Keep doing it properly. And, that's what's critical to it. Sure, they have, what, now, $50 million or something. People say, oh, well, they don't have a lot. But they have essentially like 3-4 modules being developed now. Besides, I think, the persistent universe sort of part of it. It's still in design phase, where they're not sure how everything's going to stick together, how insurance is really 100% going to play out. They know for a rough fact that, insurance is essentially what it's going to be like today. If you are a shady driver, if you have a history of crashing your cars, if you have a history of poor performance, if you somehow have been, had your house broken into, your car broken into, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, insurance is going to be more expensive. Obviously, you're not going to be able to insure it in all places. And obviously, not everyone's going to be insured. And that's something they wanted to really, I think they need to think about more. Because if you go to, say, some really shady system and your ship gets blown up, well, why were you in that system, and why are you asking now for a refund, essentially? on your ship that you took there purposely to go blow up. Another thing they're discussing is obviously trade, player-player interaction, where, okay, some scammers scam you out of your ship. Now, some games have a very strict policy on saying, no, you can't trade, or you can trade with a very limited amount of, resources if your account is such and such below this threshold or above this threshold, or blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. But, personally, I find that, scamming someone can be a valuable lesson. And it actually does add to immersion. Because in real life, yeah, you can actually be scammed. You can lose a whole bunch of money if you're not careful. So if you fly to some system to go pick up this very special, quote-unquote, special artifact, and it turns out to be some pirates that want to take your ship over, well, too bad, so sad. You took a risk and your ship got blown up, essentially. Speaking of which, weapons obviously a big part of it. Yeah, that's something also that needs to be discussed. First person module coming soon, next couple months. I think they said November, October, November, sometime they're gonna talk about it at PAX Australia, and that is another key part to the thing. Elite Dangerous, I don't really see a whole bunch of first person stuff happening. I see you basically in Elite Dangerous going, let's get into my ship, let's go fly around, let's get on my ship, let's go around in some very enclosed space like this, do something, and then get back on my ship. No, that's not Star Citizen. And, Star Citizen's backed by reliable technology of the CryEngine. Elite Dangerous is using, the team there is using Cobra, which is some completely untested engine. We don't even know if it's feature complete yet. By basically making it top sheet. Now before, actually, I got some audio delays, so I'm going to check this out. And a couple months ago, actually, if you were to do this, you would actually get not scorch marks, but you would actually get white box, white texture, white things. Which tells you, they're working on the game, slowly but surely. And you know what? They're not afraid to tell you, okay, we made a mistake. We're going to have to push things back a little bit. The only people I've seen are people who say, oh, Elite Dangerous, the perfect face sim, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not the fact. It's because they want to take time building something. You can't create something like this in 5 minutes. And that's just one single chip. It has to go through iteration, get things done. And another bug you can obviously see is this nice banner. Clear on one side. And if you're about to rotate around, nothing. Zip zeroing on a nothing. So, as you can see, it's a work in progress, and that's what the developers said. It's a work in progress. It'll be a work in progress for a long time. So far, I'm impressed. Being a work in progress, it certainly beats a lot of the games. I don't have to deal with some weird DRM stuff. I don't have to deal with some horrible textures now that I have to manually patch and take 10 minutes to load the textures in the game. I can hop in, enjoy the full power of my machine. Not quite yet, but obviously that's something that's going to be addressed. And as we can see here, got some reasonable abilities to interact with things now. You can see then again, glitchy texture there. juddery motion like that. The camera snaps, which is actually useful because there's a bug where you'll get a counted angle after you play Arena Commander sometimes. The only way to fix it is to go through a door that fixes your camera. Other than that, yeah, it's a marvel, to say the least, that a game like this is coming out. And it's actually going to push your system. Ultra means ultra. Not, okay, we did, you know, upscale textures. You even get a space towel, which you can use. And you can even look over my wonderful Aurora and Constellation. This, I don't know what this is. I can't remember. Ah, some gear of some sort. Now, they talked about actually changing the hangar system because they want to make it more free flow. And the current layout doesn't make any sense. They wanted to make it more in fiction. They want to make it more immersive, which obviously I like, because a lot of games broke my heart essentially because they just didn't provide that, either the immersion to begin with or the immersion that someone could add later on, which troubles me because I spent money on the game, I paid for the game. Now the game's turning around saying, no, you can't do that. No, you can't create the game you want. No, you can't have the game you wanted. Simply because it took too much time just to add the ability to even add some buggy way to put stuff in the game. You know, either, for me, it's either you put the stuff in the game right away, or I'll put the stuff in the game, or someone else will put stuff in the game. And from what I'm seeing is that Chris Roberts and his team, along with the other developers and producers and, you know, everyone else, they're going to make it the game you want it to be. If you provide backup, if you provide stuff to back up your statements, if you provide things to say, oh, well, you know, I don't like this feature, we should tweak it slightly, they're going to listen. They're going to say, okay, yeah, sure, fair enough. We understand. Obviously, it's some crazy idea like, I want to have a banana on my spacecraft. Well, no, obviously, they're not going to listen to that. But they want it to be a proper game. They don't want it to be, oh, well, you know, some half-done game where, oh, now you have to pay for DLCs. No. Please, no, DLC is evil. DLCs are the Satan of everything. And if you know me well enough, I hate DLCs. Why? Because that means, oh, we want to rip you off more money than we did before by charging $60 for the base game, only to get kind of half the thing. Now you say, okay, you know, we can see these ships. What to do? Okay, what can we do? As of right now, it's basically just Arena Commander. You can play around, have a capture the flag kind of thing. You can just do a team deathmatch, which is pretty standard stuff for most games. But the one I'm really waiting for is being able to go planet-side and do stuff properly. You know, the first-person module is more appealing to me. Why? Because I'm a first-person gamer. I've always been one. My flying kind of sucks. Whether or not it's because I own Aurora or not, I've yet to determine that, but it could also be because I'm using keyboard mouse. Really, everyone has some expensive joystick with his setup. or they just own Hornets and beat everyone because they have basically double the guns and double the armor and much better maneuverability, but less space. Never mind that. Now we can go in here, can access region commander. See if I can actually select that Hornet from here. I don't think so. Aha! I can. And obviously you can play with AI on your machine, if your machine's good enough. I was actually able to play this game with a total system memory count of 4 gigabytes. Surprisingly enough, even though recommended specs are 6 gigs, and I will say that is a good recommendation, because 4 gigs, you can't really play it with 4 gigs. It needs to add a lot of textures, and unlike Elite Dangerous, which somehow has a recommended level of 2 gigabytes of memory with a quad core, which obviously doesn't make any sense, because 64-bit you really should be running today needs at least 4. You know, the detail here is important. Like I said before, ultra means ultra. There's no question about it. Ultra doesn't mean, oh well, now this textures are ground total of 1024 by 1024 instead of the usual 512 by 512 for the console peasants. Another thing they're going to add was private matches. You can see this is obviously augmented reality to some bit. And that's it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, I can always make another video addressing those properly. But that is it for now. You will be able to see me in the verse, most likely. Either flying that, or somehow maybe I'll buy a Hornet too. I don't think so. You know, you already put so much money into a game. I'm not sure how some people can put more money into a game. I think it's also the demographics where, you know, teenagers only have a limited amount of money, whether it be from their parents or themselves working. You know, a simple part-time job a couple days a week during school. You know, because of those demographics, you're able to address, you know, your opinions better. Saying, oh yeah, okay, I like this ship, I'm gonna buy it now, even though it's a grand total of some ludicrous amount of money, like $200. Anyways, that is it, and goodbye. See you in the verse.